Okay, welcome to One Stop Co-op Shop. Stephen Kim here,
No?
and we're here with two special guests from One Stop. Hey, Bairnt,
You greetings.
and Colin, of course.
Hello, hello.
And we are going to take a look at Marvel United because we've been playing a lot of it, all of us. So we thought, you know what? Let's just get our thoughts all on the table.
Well, especially with X-Men out right now, it's good to talk about it, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so we're doing this live on YouTube. If you happen to watch us live, feel free to drop comments in the chat. And we're just going to go through a slightly different format than we normally do. We like our top fives. But with four of us, if we all did a top five, it would get kind of messy. So we thought we'd put together, like, these are the...
We'd be here till
That's
long.
right.
It'll be a very long episode.
And so we put together our, like, most important things, and we combine them into one Uber list. So we're just going to walk through them piece by piece, one at a time, and discuss them. So, cool. Okay. A brief description on Marvel United, if you're not familiar with it. It is a kind of like a pandemic-ish type game.
What?
Well, yeah, you run around trying to manage the board state, right? Maybe not. Okay, maybe not that, apparently.
No, I don't compare it to pandemic.
Except you actually get to destroy the virus at the end.
There you go.
You can do that in Pandemic,
Well,
Bairnt.
true, but I mean, you don't. This virus isn't like a miniature that walks around and tries to hit you.
That's true,
Yeah,
but those
right,
thugs are
that's
kind of
right.
like they can explode and
Very
an
true.
outbreak. So I see where Steve's coming from, but Kim, I get you. But I do see where Steve's coming from. Yeah.
Fine. Would you like to explain it?
No.
Okay. Okay.
So you are superheroes, and your job is to make sure that the city does not fall to their evil plan. And every supervillain has a different way of potentially beating you, and you have to try to mitigate their chances of destroying the city while trying to like do certain objectives so that you actually take out the virus. I mean, super by the end of the. So that's kind of what it is. Of course, there's so many different villains and so many different heroes. It's a loose.
I would say that
I'm
perfectly
with you,
sums it
Bairnt.
up. So not
I do.
pandemic in my, in my
No.
opinion, yeah.
No.
So
No.
that's well said.
I mean, the part that's like Pandemic is the escalation in the game. So as the game progresses and you get farther along on your objectives, then the villain fights back, just like those viruses get stronger. And you have thugs or civilians that can overflow over a location potentially, just like the cubes in Pandemic.
Right.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
You're
Yeah,
throwing
that's
him
all
a
you got.
bone.
That's about it.
Throwing him a bone.
Trying here.
I'm trying, man. I'm
You did a
trying.
great
Okay?
job, Colin. You almost sold it.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Okay, but yeah. It's
So what Bairnt said.
what Baron said, yes. Much better than what I tried doing here.
What I said. No, the only thing I did forget, of course, is the little objective. They're all little missions on each little place too that you try to help beat. And if you do that, you usually get a little bonus to help you out for the rest of the game if you can stay in that location or even sometimes they just help immediately. And of course, like I said, that's one of the three objectives you have to do in order to go after the actual main villain most of the time. Of course, I'm saying most of the time because not every one of them is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting rid of those threat cards is probably one of the things we'll be talking about, I'm sure, because not only are you removing the threat, but you're gaining a benefit of that location if you end your turn on that spot, and that's part of the strategy of the game, and it's part of what makes the game so much fun to play. Trying to decide which threats to take out, which locations you want to clear, which ones can give you those best benefits.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot of content on this one. I know we've been streaming the past. Actually, yes, I streamed yesterday and a couple weeks before that too.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot of content there, and I know we got a lot more probably in the main channel coming. I'm assuming too. But yes, I think let's jump into the review part of it. So let's start with the first thing on our list to talk about, which is the game modes. So this is something I think Baron mentioned on when he put his list together. I think you put down how the scenarios linked together is how you described it.
Yes, I mean some of the newer stuff that's coming out seems to have those like neat little mini campaigns kind of with them, like that Sinister Six. They have the Infinity Gauntlet, and of course, being a campaign kind of guy, I think is really kind of cool that those kind of things all kind of work together. Instead of just doing a one-off, you actually have this ability to kind of have these scenarios kind of interact, and you can, of course, you could play all these as one-offs, but you could it at least has some interaction with each other to kind of give you that feel of being like a superhero trying to take on more of their henchmen, and not just the henchmen, but then like their minions, and then even try to take them on themselves. And I know the new X-Men one, I think, is going to be having like an Apocalypse, which is going to be probably a similar concept coming up, which I'm stoked for because he's probably one of my top 3 favorite like super villain guys, next to
really?
Galactus, who is my favorite.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I think of game modes too, I think of the fact that you've got the different boxes for Marvel United, and within each of those boxes, they have different game modes that are included in them. Hey, with the Black Panther one, you can add in the what are they called? The endangered locations, or
Yep.
yeah. So you've got endangered locations. So if you have a location you have to protect, and if ever that overflows, you take damage. You've got the Spider-Verse one where you've got where you've got, what do you call it? The media is following you, and if you do things in certain areas, you can actually get damaged. One of my favorites is the Guardians of the Galaxy. You can do mission B cards where you can actually win by just completing all 3 of the missions instead of actually defeating the boss itself. So yeah, the game comes with a bunch of different modes that you can actually play, and you can put them together. You can swap them back and forth. That's really fun. I think that's really cool. My biggest thing about it is that you have to buy all the packs if you want to get all of them. But if you have certain ones that you like the endangered locations, you can just buy the Black Panther, or heck, just play with it. You don't even need the tokens. You can just know, okay, we're going to play with it. So, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think their marketing scheme on this is brilliant because so many people do buy the whole box.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm just examples. This is what I'm saying.
There's an example right there.
Yes. But like you said, you can piece out your favorite parts. You may not like a certain pack. You don't have to buy it, but
Right.
yeah, I think it's a good way to do it.
So, quick shout out to the chat. We have Howard joining. He's
So
saying,
answer
"Yeah,
your
jerseys
question.
represent, but where's my jersey?" Well, yeah, Kim's wearing it.
I'm wearing it.
So,
Loves our jerseys we have.
Oh, is that what he's saying?
Yeah, he says, I really enjoy the jerseys. Where is Steve's jersey? And I just want to tell him, I've got a song for him. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. For those
yep, I'm the awkward one in the group.
Three of us have our jerseys
There
on.
you are.
Steve's decided not to represent the One Stop Co-op Shop in jersey form, but I will say this is probably the first time ever I've seen Steve on live without a jersey or some type of representation, which is kind of funny.
The one time. The one time. Yeah.
Oh, good times. Yeah. So getting back on the game mode thing, the other one I want to talk about, because we just played this a couple days ago, yesterday,
A couple nights ago.
couple nights ago. Sinister Six is another game mode that was introduced, and that's different than normal play, where you fight 6 villains at the same time, and boy, is that brutal.
Yeah, we've played twice, and we have not defeated it. We got kind of close, like 2/3 of the way there.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's a really good challenge, I think.
for sure.
Well, close only counts in horseshoes and not hand grenades. So that's
And definitely not Marvel United. Let's be honest.
definitely not.
I've heard that you want to actually include those wilds if you want to have a chance on the Sinister
Yes.
Six.
It's very important, Steve.
Why are you looking at me? I don't do anything with the wilds. They stay in the box.
Wait, there's extra wilds in the game? I had no idea.
Heroic mode all the time.
There's something other than heroic mode?
That's pretty typical for Steve. Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So that's part of my problem.
I know Howard is enjoying you calling me out, of course. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yes, those wild cards would help a lot. Yes, for sure, Howard. So-
Although to be fair, you did tell me today that you sleeved them and now they're part of the packs. Not all of them, just the single wilds, right?
I put a single wild back in. Yes.
I'm breaking them down, guys.
That's
Breaking
a
them
start.
down.
That's a start.
He didn't even have them sleeved. That's absolutely amazing. That way, you can't play with it because the rest of the deck is
That's
sleeved. So,
right.
Steve,
Yeah,
genius
yeah.
thinking. I like the way you think. I like it though.
That's pretty good. So yes, there are a
Oh.
lot of game modes. They're all pretty awesome. I think, and then there's a lot more to come. I'm sure now with the new X-Men coming. I'm excited to see kind of where they take this. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, did you
So,
see? I mean, I think it's really cool with the X-Men that they're having heroes that are also villains, so you can play
yes,
them either way. I think
and
that's
that's
awesome.
very true of the whole thing. He
Oh,
had like makes go
exactly.
against the X-Men, but then all of a sudden he kind of turns and goes like, we should kind of work together now because
Hmm.
this thing's coming or something. So yeah, that's totally that kind of whole story arcs of the X-Men. That whole universe is very, I'm against you, now I'm kind of with you, now I'm not against you, now I'm with you. So that is
Hmm.
very thematic. I think it's gonna be really cool to see how that all works.
Well, I'm really impressed with where they are going with X-Men. And my only wish is that some of the things that they're doing with X-Men, they would actually go back and do with Marvel United.
Yeah.
Steve and I actually talked about this. That would be super cool. I doubt that's going to happen, and that's fine. It is what it is. But that's why X-Men I'm even more excited about, because they've got these additions that we can see that they're going to do, and I think it's only going to make the game better, really.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's one thing to keep in mind with this game, that most of the game is still the core gameplay that you've probably seen on playthroughs and you've seen described on the Kickstarter page. But there's more than just that type of game mode in here, which is not something I was that aware of when I got into or reading about the game a lot. Like, oh wow, there's a whole new campaign mode, all these other ways of playing. So it's really quite fun. So, but yeah, I guess overall, are you guys thinking? Just kind of summarize our thoughts here. We talked about what the game modes were, but is this a pro for you, a con for you, a
Mhm.
mix? What are you guys thinking?
Huge pro for me.
I
Uh,
think anything
yeah.
that can make any like I mean, when I originally played the core box, there really wasn't enough in there to really think like, oh, this is going to be like the game. But I think now that we're all talking about it here, we've experienced a lot more than just that core box, and we're finding these as pros because you're seeing so much more stuff that you can add into your game.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. The core box is very vanilla. It's very intro. It's a great gateway game, I would say. Because like our 6-year-old plays it and he loves it, but now
Huge fan.
he's doing this crazy advanced stuff too. Um, but yeah, it's an excellent ramp up into the many purchases that you can do.
Yeah, I agree. I think the game modes were all fantastic additions to this. I do find the challenge of them on the more extreme end. That's one thing I want to point out. If you thought the game was too easy, these other modes will do that for you. In fact, I'm not even sure how to even beat the Sinister Six as we've been playing it. Like I've been trying to think of different strategies and ways of approaching it. So it's at that level where like it's if you win it, it's gonna be like a huge like sticker on your shirt, whatever type thing, right? Like
Yeah, like which villain do you go for first, or is it because our team that we've built together isn't the right team to fight them, or what? What are
Mhm,
we doing
mhm.
wrong other than not putting the wild
You
cards
didn't cheat.
in?
That's why.
Yeah.
Putting the wild card in. That's an epic.
Put the wild
Epic.
card.
Oh, Steve, that's awesome.
for sure. So yeah, basically the game mode's all a big plus. Let's move on to the next topic we're going to discuss, and that is the weight of the game, because I'm sure this is going to be a big one for a lot of people. So I think Colin,
Yeah.
you kind of mentioned put this on your list. Want to start off?
Yeah, so I think actually overall this is a more of a negative for me, but it's still a good thing. I do feel like the game is quite light. It's very simple, so that means I have a 7-year-old, Connor. He really loves the game, but we play other games like Journeys in Middle Earth, and he can totally understand that, and it's a little bit more complex. And so, although he likes Marvel United, my problem actually is that it's too light. He wants to play things that are more complex. I mean, it was actually very interesting. We were playing. He took 2 points of damage one time, and so then when it was his turn, he drew a card and he goes, "Well, Dad, I really only have 2 cards as options. That's all that I have. I really can't do a ton here because the cards that I have, it just limits so much of what I can do." And it was really fun to see him realize that. And so you just have to know that as much as the game has lots of modes and lots of things that you can do to make the game challenging, it's still a very light game, and that could be a very good positive for other people. But for me, I I like a little bit more meat on the bones for a game, but I still really like the game, and he wants to get the X-Men one, and so do I. So that's good. I just would say that overall, you have to know that what you're getting is a lighter experience. It can be a challenge to win, but it's still going to be light because you're only going to have a couple choices. You're not going to have a ton of choices. And as the game goes by, generally you'll even get less because you might have damage or whatnot. So yeah, that's kind of what I was saying there for the weight.
Yeah. And
What do you
me,
guys
I think
think?
that's the weight of it being lighter is a pro because, Steve's game collection is kind of intense. You guys are the big gamers and I'm along for the ride. Um, so when he's like, let's play a game, and there are nights where it's just like, I don't want to think too hard. So this is a great light game to bring to the table and just have fun with for me.
Yeah,
Totally.
I kind of agree a little bit more with Colin on the light side. I do like a little bit, I mean, but I've been playing, some people may know I have kind of bigger games most of the times that I play. So there's usually a lot going on, but when you come down to it, this game, Robin has not, my wife has really not said, hey, let's play Marvel United. She would really rather play those Robinson Crusoe or something with a little bit more into it. This really is something I've been enjoying with my kids more than anything else. They've enjoyed it. We just have the base box. I know Colin's right down the road, so I'm going to kind of work with him to try to eventually try some of the other stuff as well. I mean,
You're never getting my stuff. No, I'm
yes,
kidding.
I know. I have played some of the
I'm
scenarios
kidding.
with Colin,
I'm kidding.
which is kind of cool, which has been a lot of fun. I've been over to his house playing a few of them just to see how they all play. But I'm excited to show some of these newer ones to Ridley because I have no contempt. My 11-year-old, he's starting to get to like, is there anybody else? I'm like, yeah, where's War Machine? Well, it's down the road.
Yeah, I've got it. It's just down here.
So I think that it works for me right now as a light game. I don't know how far down this would stay in my collection as my kids got older. Depending on what they come up with this X-Men, if they keep it going, I think they might add more complexity, but still keeping the lighter feel to it. I don't know. We'll see how it all plays out. But for an actual game in my collection, it would probably be more of a con to be this light, which is rare because I rarely con a game.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair point. I mean, like I said, our son is 6, so I think we have a longer lifespan for a game like this to play with him as well. But then also, like I said, for me, sometimes I just give me a lighter game.
So I'm a little bit going to be counter to, I think, maybe everyone here, because for me, at least, I view weight as a ratio on what I get out of it. Meaning that if I sit down to play a heavy, complex game, I want to have a really meaty experience on the other end. But if I come into with a lighter game, I'm okay with a not as meaty experience out of it, as long as that ratio is there as the reward for me.
So it's meeting your expectations.
Right.
It's not like,
exactly.
Oh, I don't know I'm playing a light game. It's like, you know what you're getting.
I know I'm not going to get a meaty experience, and I'm okay with that. I don't expect a light game to give me that, but for what this is set out to do, I think it does a really good job for a light game. So for me, this is a pro for me. I like having a variety of, hey, I don't want to play a heavy game. Cool, let me pull this off the shelf. Hey, I want to play a meteor game. Let me pull this off the shelf. I like having that choice for people when we're ready to play a game.
Or you bring a non-gamer over,
right?
And it's like, hey, you like superheroes? Kabam!
Exactly.
You know.
Kabam!
That's a great sound. I love the sound.
That's exactly
it
what
was
you do
perfect.
when they come over, especially if they love superheroes. Kabam!
Yeah.
Where's the little picture that says kabam?
Yeah,
you know, as you say it, kabam! Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna trademark that. So all right.
There's some great comments in the chat here. More often that they one person they're saying that you could say they were Steved. The card was sleeved. It was Steved.
Oh yes, that was
pretty good.
Sleeve for Steve.
That is a good one.
Yes.
Howard also would like to know where Mike is so he can poo-poo on the game.
No, we don't have to go there. There's too much negativity.
Oh man!
He also wants me to explain define a bigger game. Do you mean there's no campaign? Not necessarily. I just mean there's a lot more. I think what my interpretation was a lot of my games just have so much. I would say not necessarily all rules, but there's a lot of inner workings going on in them. But most of them are campaigns. I will have to say that. But I do have some one-off games, but there are a lot, like you're saying, meatier. There's more in it than just these 3 cards that I'm playing that other people can play off of and things like that. And decide.
There's
A
only
lot more
3 symbols in this
strategy.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Strategy in other games are there for sure.
Yeah.
I do like campaigns.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yes.
All the time.
And just a reminder for those watching, if you guys want to chime in with your own comments on each of these topics, feel free. We'll pull them up.
You guys are all wrong.
Yeah,
No,
like,
whatever.
Steve, what are you talking about? Get off here. You're the one not wearing a jersey. You should be off the show.
But you were a good husband.
I'm usually
in your
not
jersey.
wrong.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the next topic. Let's go on to the content and components section. I think, Colin, you listed this one on yours.
Yeah.
I got one more comment.
Well, so I would say overall, the amount of content for this game now that. So I almost think it was a disservice to this game that I received the base game first before getting everything with the Kickstarter, because it turned me off to the game initially. Because when I played it, I went, well, those 3 villains, yeah, they were a little bit different. The heroes were a little bit different, but it wasn't doing enough to even make me think about getting it back to the table. But now with all of the Kickstarter stuff, with all the different heroes, with all the different ways of combining different types of modes of gameplay, the content into this game provides you a lot more replayability. And now I want to make a spreadsheet of all the different villains and say, okay, I've been able to beat every single one of them with these people. Okay, now I want to try them and go against Thanos and which 4 villains and then have a spreadsheet and see the ones that I beat, because that's the kind of person that I am. And so that the content, the amount of variability of the different heroes and the different villains, now that I have everything for the game, has really made the game something that I want to keep and I do want to continue to play, versus when I just had the base game, I only had 3 villains with, what was it, 7 heroes? I think it was 7 heroes.
I think so.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. But, you played, I think we played 5 or 6 times. And after that, I put it away and didn't pull it out until the Kickstarter stuff came. So to me, I felt like the content now out there for the game, it's a huge positive. It makes me want to pull it out again.
That's very, very true. Howard even agrees with you. He said he's 100% agrees with what your statement is. He said that the Kickstarter being 2 waves did not actually give this game any justice. And I actually almost have to apologize to Steve, because when he introduced me to the game, I was like, this is okay. It's a game. Don't know. But after seeing all the things that I've experienced since the core game, like you said, all the Kickstarter stuff, yeah, it really makes it a more enjoyable experience, seeing all this diversity in the heroes. Even though the core box did have some diversity, it was still cool to see all the neat stuff.
Oh, I mean, compared to like Doctor Strange or Wanda or oh man, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. That duck one that can do
Howard
all
the
this
Duck?
damage, but yeah, Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got so much differences even just with the heroes, and then the villains. I mean, you go against Kingpin, and when you're defeating thugs and saving civilians, they don't even go on your mission sheets until you have to take care of threats. I mean, it totally just changed it.
Yeah, and so that ties really well into this comment from TL where, people say it's easy, but all those little nuances really add to the depth of each character to really understand what they're doing. And like here, you can easily read a rule wrong. Case in point, like
Not me.
like we have, where Squirrel Girl, sure, she can take out everybody using everyone's special skill card. So that's not what that card actually says. So you can accidentally cheat.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that a lot of people say the game is easy, and I don't know if always that means it's easy to win, but it's easy to understand and how to play. And then people feel like, oh, well, it's kind of boring. Like I know exactly what I'm going to do. I don't have a lot of choices. I'm just gonna, you gave me 2 punches. I've got a move in my hand, so I guess I'm just gonna move and punch 2 things because that's all I can do. Right. So that's almost the easiness feel, is that your decision space is so much smaller than maybe in a game like, let's say, Mage Knight, where it's like, well, this card can do anything in the game, right? And so, right, so that is where I feel like the easiness from this game, a lot of people are talking about how easy it feels, is because it's easy to make those choices, and you just boom, 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 play those cards, move. Now it's your turn. Now the enemy's villain's going already. Already you finished the game, and it's been 15 minutes. So, and if you know that, and that's the type of game that you want, it's perfect. But if you're looking for something else, you're not going to get that here. You might, though, with all of the expansion stuff now, you can get a more meatier game, I think.
Yes.
For sure.
Right.
And I don't know if the decisions are easy per se, necessarily, because if you pull back those wilds, as we've been playing a lot, as you know, you only have so many punches in the deck.
Not by choice.
Not by choice. You only have so many punches in the deck, right? So you have to keep track of, hey, is this the time to play this punch? It's not always obvious. You just
Sure,
wait.
but you also don't. Yeah, go ahead.
It depends on who you are. You are a very analytical man.
Fair enough.
My 6-year-old says, I want to punch something. Here's a punch card. So you can take it both sides of the spectrum.
Good point. You can play either way.
So,
That's true. That's true.
yeah.
Well, or you just don't have an option, Steve. You have one card in hand, you draw another one, and it's another punch card. So you
That's
have two punch cards in your hand. You can either punch or you can punch, right? So that's that's all you can do.
Yep.
And that's just. Yep.
Go ahead, Colin.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say the interesting thing is, Steve, you often talk about really liking the mitigation factor that you can get out of deeper games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not really what you're going to get here.
Right.
Is that, even with all this extra content, you feel like you're getting more mitigation, but I think it would really depend on the character.
It does depend on characters, for sure.
And the locations. Some of those locations, too.
Ooh, I'm just teeing you up.
You're a team.
Okay.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Howard also agrees. He thinks the easy count is more about the simplicity of the game, which I definitely think we all agree that is the primary comment of it. Like it's just such a simple game to explain. It takes like 5 minutes to teach someone.
Not even. Yeah.
Challenge accepted. I got it down in 60 seconds.
Right.
3 minutes and 12 seconds. That's what I can do. Okay, I'm just saying. No.
I can teach that game in 2 notes.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, I getting back to the topic on hand, the content and components. I totally agree that I think the base game, the core box, they had a variety of characters that kind of spread the spectrum a bit. Like they had, hey, this one's good at fighting, this one's good at heroic actions, this one's a little bit better at movement, that type of stuff. But I think the problem was because it was the core box and you want to like, hey, here's these really complex rules. They made it very simple, especially with the special actions, right?
Very entry.
Correct.
Just a little teaser.
Exactly.
For what's to come, and then.
And so when the Kickstarter arrived, it's like, oh wait, this design space you thought was this small? Well, guess what? We can do all this other stuff in it, and now your design space gets a lot bigger, and now you kind of realize, well, okay, this is what this simple system can do. This is how far you can take it. And even with the X-Men United campaign, you're seeing even more of what they'll be able to do with that, which is pretty cool. I'm excited. Like, for example, Mystique in the upcoming one, she has comes with a special token, Senator Kelly. And your heroes will move, or he can move with the heroes, and she's just trying to assassinate him.
I'm so going to be her.
You can also play as her, too. But she's just trying to take out Senator Kelly. And so your job is to like move him away from her and take damage instead of him. So it sounds like pretty cool. So anyway.
Yeah, I just got to say, I'm really impressed with how they made this very simple core rules. And then they've been able to expand them so well. Makes me think of any of the LCGs really of Fantasy Flight. You start off with Lord of the Rings, really basic 3 heroes, they generate 1 resource of their color, and all of a sudden now when you look at the game, the things that you can do, it's absolutely insane, right? And so you can see that they've taken that core idea of, hey, you can just use the symbol of the player that played before and the one that you play in yours, and you can do them in any order. All of a sudden, mind blown, all these things that you can do. It's pretty cool.
So TL had a comment about that. He says, with the added complexity to the large design space, maybe the words easy and simple aren't the right words. How about clean design? Which I think it's a good distinction. It's a very, very
yeah,
good
I can
better.
totally go
I like
with that. Clean. It is a very clean design.
Easy is very misleading, like you're saying before. Like the ease of rules versus the ease of the game versus, hey, I never lose. Like me and Spirit Island never lose. So I mean, I can.
You played it twice, man.
Twice.
Just pat yourself on the back right there.
I know. Did you hear that?
You better retire. Still 1,000 or batting 1,000.
2 for 2, dude. Okay, you wouldn't even count. It wouldn't count in baseball. I'm just saying, not enough at bats.
No, that's a great comment though, TL. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Okay.
Howard had a question about.
Oh, so yeah, we can go back to Howard. Did have a question real quick, so let's answer Howard's question. He said, "Any thoughts on how Simon handled this first campaign, and if that's even is a factor for someone who's considering the game now?" And just in case you're not familiar with what he's talking about, Simon and Spin Master partnered up to produce this game, and I think Spin Master was managing the retail version of it, and Simon was like the Kickstarter version of it, but it got really cloudy and like who's exactly doing what, who's controlling what. Long story short, the game hit Walmart shelves before the Kickstarter backers who did the early shipping got their copies, and that was a pretty poor execution of customer service to the people who support the project, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there were talks of like, hey, can we pull this off the shelves? So there was a period where I think they pulled them off the shelves, and the Kickstarter backers got them. They put them back on, but there's a lot of gray in there. So I guess the
Walmart
question
didn't
is,
want to do that because they have to hold it. They have to store it. So
Exactly.
they don't want to store it, and they don't want to pay for that inventory that they could sell that they can't. So that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Plus, it's Walmart. They can do what they want, basically, right?
Exactly.
Let's be real here.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
But I guess the question is, with that knowledge of how that happened in the first campaign, is that going to affect your decision on the second campaign here?
Well, and what's the probability that it's going to happen with the X-Men one?
Right.
It could.
I'm going to assume that it's going to. That's
Yeah.
what I'm going to do. I'm just going to assume that it is, and basically you have to be okay with it. If you're not, then you're going to have to wait and get it at a third, from a third party later, and it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah.
So do I like it? No. I've never been a huge fan of how Cool Mini or Not has done their Kickstarters, because I do feel like they don't need to be kickstarting their games.
Yes.
Who I want to be kickstarting games for are people that don't have the capital to make the game. Cool Mini or Not has the capital. Instead, they're just using it as a pre-order. So make it as a pre-order instead of as a Kickstarter. But that's their business model. And the fact that I enjoy this game, that means that I am okay enough with that business model, even if I don't fully agree with it. I want to play the game. So, and I really like the design.
I got 2 words for you: all in. I mean, that's just how it works.
When aren't you all in, Bairnt?
I am. And you know what? I don't mind. Like, I really don't mind Walmart even getting it a month before I were to get it, because I know the rest of the stuff is going to be coming. And if it's anything like the first core box, that first core box is really just an entry level. And like you said, you got a window space or a design space here where they can open it so much more. I'd rather pay a little bit extra to make sure I'm getting all this extra space opened up for me to be able to play, than just being like, well, I'm not doing it because I have to get it because Walmart's going to get it first. I'm just going to buy it from Walmart, and then I'll get the other stuff later. If that's your deal, that's totally fine. I have no problem. I mean, I've always been okay with Kickstarters being late, even if they're hitting shelves beforehand. And it's not like I don't have something else to play.
Anything. Nothing.
Yeah. No. So, but I may be in a minority. I may be in a majority. I may be in the left wing, right wing.
Well, I will tell you, it did not make me feel very good as a backer of the first the first iteration of this, that this was happening, and it was happening more than a month ahead of time. Didn't make me feel great, but in this grand scheme of things, a month, it doesn't matter. And you know what? Those people that got the course at Walmart and then wanted to get the big main part of the game had to pay some third party, some person that's scalping them $400, $500 on eBay.
Mm-hmm.
And I only paid the $200 that it was on Kickstarter with everything, right? And I've got the nice updated locations and all of that. So
kind of action. If they're working with this Spin Doctor Spin Doctor is a band.
Yeah, Spin Doctor.
Spin Master.
I don't. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm guessing if they're working with this, if this company is also working with them, they have their own timetables that they have to accomplish too. So that's just probably what's going to happen. But we'll see.
Yep.
But what's our next topic?
Let's keep going. Next one is combos, and I put this one on the list, I think. So I'll start off where I didn't really see a lot of combos other than working together in the core box, but once I got all the Kickstarter stuff, there was a lot of like really cool interactions that came up. In fact, we tried doing one in our stream, which we
Did wrong.
did wrong,
But it was really cool.
But it was a legit combo. Just we played it wrong. So we're like the example was Squirrel Girl's special ability. Her ability is if she has more specials out on the storyline than health remaining of the boss, you just win the game, flat out. It's an alternate win condition just for her, which is really cool. And we were playing the game where I had the card stuck in my hand, but Kim was playing Nebula.
Yeah, Nebula says you can trade out. All players can trade out a card from the storyline and swap a card into it. So we're like, sweet, we'll just have everyone pile their special cards into the storyline, and then boom, Squirrel Girl wins.
Exactly.
That's not how it goes, but it was a really cool concept.
Yeah, the combo still works even though we played the rule wrong. But anyway, but like these type of combos are starting to show up more and more. In fact, when Elijah and I played, we played it was Scarlet Witch and it was Adam Warlock. That's right. And we played against Hela. And for half the game, Hela did not even enter the board because we canceled every single one of her Master Strikes. Not Master Strikes, I'm sorry, wrong game. Her
Master Strikes.
Master Plan for like multiple rounds in a row, which was really, really cool. So.
Yeah. And then so that gets back to my question of when we're playing Sinister Six, are we doing the wrong combo characters? Is there a strength out there that we're just not seeing yet?
Well, and Steve has talked a lot about the importance of turn order. And I think that's really cool in this game, how you can have Hulk be a heroic Hulk if you put him right behind Captain America. Because Captain America would play your heroic symbols, and all of a sudden, Hulk can go and use those, and then, so that's a cool combo. So you can combo how your heroes are set up based on where they're sitting in the table. And it's really kind of cool. And it's something I haven't seen before, where you will have your own identity. Hulk has his own identity is 3. I'm going to hammer everything. I'm Hulk smash. But then I can add in a combo of the character that's playing before me and use that to also be able to be this heroic Hulk. I mean, that sounds kind of cool. That type of thing. Anyways, I haven't seen other games do that and do it as well as United has.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing about this game. There's all these little combos and tricks you can do to make the game work, in the sense that like when we're sitting down playing against a certain villain which has its own scenario, I'm thinking about, like you mentioned just now, like, are we playing the wrong combo together to take out that specific villain, to take out that scenario, to manage the situation? And that part I did not expect to come from United when it was first presented. When it was first presented, I'm like, wow, this is like really simple. I thought it was a kid's game. And now I'm at the point now where I'm like, think about combos outside the game, like which character combinations get put together, and which, and honestly, like you said, Colin, what's the seating order that makes sense for this character combination? Mm-hmm. So that's particularly fun.
Yep. You'll just be lying in bed. Oh, what about, it's like, go to sleep.
I can see it now.
But yeah, that is combos. Let's keep going. Next topic we have is, I hid that one for you guys. Challenge level. And this is one that you listed on here. You want to start us off? Level. Yes.
What was I talking about?
I will start for you then, because we talked about it a little bit. Basically, you were surprised at how difficult the game could be with how simple it presented itself. Now, it doesn't mean that it's always very, very challenging and difficult, but it can get there.
It's difficult to win, I guess was my point, which we've already kind of touched on, where it's, what I like about it is the deception of that level of difficulty to victory that it actually has. Because you can sit down, you're like, this is, 30 minutes, just, not even thinking about it, boom, we're done. But when you add all that extra stuff into it, it's not quite the case. So I like the fact that it deceives you, I think, at first.
Yeah.
And you also can adjust it almost, because once you start learning all the different, like how some of the people play, you can kind of say, okay, I've got somebody who's never played the game before. I'm going to put this kind of person and these villains and these heroes in front of them, because you're going to get a challenge level that would probably help that person. Whereas you get more into the game, you can mix and match these challenge levels to challenge yourself to almost whatever you want.
Yeah.
Now, just something to bring up too. I do feel like one of the things the game suffers with is you can have a really bad beginning. Unluckily, hey, you all start in one location and the boss, like Rhino or something, is going to come in, hammers you, and it's like, well, now we do nothing the first 2 turns, and all of a sudden, and so there's a lot of times where the game can come in pretty much unfairly and just smack you across the face. But the nice thing is, it's a 30-minute game, not even. So if that happens, you just reset it and start over. But you just
just like we did 2 weeks ago when Bullseye killed us on the first turn. Game over in 10 seconds.
Of course that can happen. Bullseye never misses. He's one of my favorite super villains, by the way. I really love Bullseye. Not just in this game, just in general. I love the concept of this character that he never misses. I think that's just, I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Yeah. I will say one thing about the challenge level, that it can get to the point where I think because this is a very modular game where you can choose different challenge levels, different villains, and different heroes, that you could choose a combination that is basically impossible to win. And I'm going to point out specifically, I know Colin mentioned this, the Plan B cards. As much as I like those cards, good luck playing Plan B cards with Doc Ock, for example, because he destroys those locations, and in order to complete the Plan B threat card one, you need to get all the threat cards completed. You can't miss a single one. If Doc Ock destroys a location with a threat card on it, that's it. You can't do it, right? So that is one.
But that's clear. You got to remember, you can still win with the mission B. You just have to complete the other 2 things and then take the boss out, and it's just a little bit harder. But yeah, you're right. There are some that would be much more challenging, and you're going to have that problem with any modular game that you're taking from. I mean, you see that with any of the Sadler games too, where you're taking a villain that just really does not combos terribly with your heroes that you picked or the locations that you have or whatever, and there's just no way that you're going to win. And that's going to happen. But the nice thing about this game is you don't win in 20 to 30 minutes. So then you go, okay, that was ridiculous. Let's just pull out a different one, or let's not do mission B then. Let's just do, and it's fast to find that out. And I like that versus something where you request and you find this combination is super easy or super not easy. You spend 5 hours. Gosh. So that's the nice thing about Marvel United, I'd say. I don't know.
Totally agree with you, Colin.
Yeah.
I've experienced it both ways, many ways, all the ways.
All the ways,
man.
All the ways. Let's keep going. Honestly, in the chat, if you guys disagree or have other comments, let us know on these topics as we go through them. Next one.
No, they do agree with us, and they do think Bullseye is aptly named, of course.
Yes, it was commented
one
there.
Turn. Boom!
Boom, Bullseye, aptly named.
Wait, what is it? Kapow!
Kapow!
Yep.
Moving on, this is another one I want to point out, and this is one of the biggest pros for me for this game, and this is what it took me a lot of levers to pull and to find the right way of playing the game because honestly, the core game, how it's introduced to you, is very it distills it down, in my opinion. But at some point, I got down to where I got close games where I was winning or losing on like one card flip. It doesn't happen every time, of course, but it happens more frequently in this game than your average game, and I really, really enjoyed that.
That was how you introduced the game to me, because you brought me into it after you dinkered around with it a little bit, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to play this game with me," and it was heroic level, and I was like, "Man, what?" So, yeah, thanks. They are very close.
I think you're seeing a pattern here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I said yes. I said yes.
They are close games. This is for sure. At least I think they are. When I've played, it does come down to a card flip or two. That's very true. And I enjoy that. I think that's pretty cool that you're like, oh, we did it. But I do have a sense of, for some bizarre reason, maybe I'm just a minority in this one. When it comes to that last, like, we barely got it kind of thing, for how fast and quick and light the game is, it really didn't have the same like exhilarating experience of something like Fire Team Zero or something, where it's like, I've been playing this for like an hour and a half. Oh, I can't believe it came down that one dice roll. I had much more of a high from it shouldn't say light. We're going away from light. Clearly designed or something.
Clean, man.
It's very clean.
Thank you.
But I think Bairnt, you do have a valid point there, because Yeah, because it's so quick and you don't have as much invested
Yes,
in it. So it's
absolutely.
like,
Mhm.
hey, great, we were victorious for 30 minutes as opposed to, 5 hours
2
of just
hours
sitting there
planning.
crying, just
Wait,
whatever the case may be.
Wait, you
No,
cried?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
that's Robinson Crusoe. Lots of crying.
Yes, Crusoe, you'd get that.
Correct.
I would also say that I agree. I mean, we only play on the heroic level too, so I can't give Steve too much of a hard time, even though I still like to because it's worth it. But
Totally.
yeah, but if you play on heroics, you get rid of the wilds. I have every game comes down right to the wire. I mean, it's always down there. We usually win or lose. Sometimes we lose way before it's the wire, but when you win, it's down to the wire.
Yeah, sure.
And like I said, the ways that we lose, sometimes it's pretty much right away just because of the unluckiness of that first draw from the master plan, and it just sets you up wrong. But yeah, I definitely enjoy that. And when I play it, I know I'm going to play it more than once in a row because it's so easy to play. At least one of the times that we play it will be a close game, and people remember that. So that's cool.
Let's keep going. And this is the next point is one that we've already talked a lot about, so I don't know if we'll get too much into it, but the fast play time. This game is, I don't know if it's anything more than a 30-minute game, honestly.
Yeah, it's quick, it's clean, it's a game that, like I said, for a non gamer comparatively to these guys, it's I mean, I play games, don't get me
You
wrong.
do play a lot of
I do
games.
play a lot of games, but the level of in-depthness that Steve gets into is another level.
What are trying to say?
I love you is what I'm saying. I mean, what was it? It's very fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
Oh, that's the
Very
best.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Not much else to say there. It is very fast. Regardless of what, it's very fast. I find that I've liked it the most at 2 and 3 players. It works still, and it's still fast at 4, but it is obnoxious when you're playing 4-player and you've gotten rid of one mission card, and all of a sudden the villain's activating 2 times before you get to go. It feels like you are basically just reacting to everything at that point because you can't keep up as an individual player. But definitely it's fast. 2 to 3 seems to be the sweet spot for me, at least.
I agree.
No, I don't know about you guys, but I'll have to say, when I set this game up, it's not a one play. It almost takes longer to set the game up than it does to actually play the game sometimes to figure out, like, oh, who do you want to be? Because you're looking through all the heroes, like, oh, I want to be this guy. Oh, this guy wants to be this guy. Oh, who are we going to face? Oh, my gosh, there's all these guys. Let's try this guy. Oh, let's try this guy. So it's like been like 20 minutes. You haven't even started playing. You play it, you're like, okay, we're done. I'm like, yeah, pick somebody else. Let's go again. Oh, okay, let's go again. So, like, once you put this on the table, you got to know you're playing for at least a good 45 minutes to an hour. Or what's the point of taking the game out? So, yes, the games are fast, which is cool. And I like the fact that you can then get into another game so fast as well. It kind of once you get it on the table, it's quick to keep going, which is kind of cool. Those are definitely pluses for me. And even being the fast time is a plus too.
Yeah.
A pro.
The nice thing about that is the campaign, which Bairnt, you mentioned about this, the Infinity Gauntlet, is you play 3 games and then go against Thanos for the 4th game, and that whole campaign takes 2 hours to play, really, right? Each one's 30 minutes long, and you can play a campaign in one sitting in this game. It's nice to be able to have that option because honestly, like, how many campaigns can you do in one sitting nowadays? It's very, very few of them. So, but yeah,
Mind blowing, I tell you, mind blowing.
Okay, let's keep moving on. The next one, and this one's probably going to be a bigger discussion. This appeared on multiple of our lists to talk about, and that is the character differentiation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, Colin, you want to start this one off?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So with the base game, you had your 7 heroes, and all 7 heroes had 3 cards that differentiated themselves. They were within the deck themselves. And you would see them pretty likely, because if you took out the 2 wild and the single wild, I think your deck is only 9 or 10 cards. So 3 out of that 9 or 10, you're likely to see, right? You might not see it right away. And when you get them, you get to play. But with the additional content, they got heroes. Every single one of his cards are unique. Well, they're not all, but they all have abilities, and they're so fun. To every time you do them, you get to do some sort of ability, which is cool. But overall, the hero differentiation, I would say, is a positive. I just want more of it. I want more than 3 cards in my 9 or 10 card deck. And I think for the X-Men, they're going to have one more card. But I also think that you don't want to have every hero have every single card being unique. It's kind of cool that you have that. Okay, I can't use my special ability every time. And I also like the heroes that their special cards aren't all the same. There are some heroes where they have 3 special cards and they're all the identical special cards. So really you have one special ability that's on 3 cards and the rest of your cards are just a combination of symbols. But the ones that I like the most are your 3 special cards are different. One of my Nick Fury, he's one of my favorites. I love that I can do things out of turn with other heroes, and each one is a little bit different, gives different symbols at different times, and I really like that. And so overall, I think how they did it actually was really cool because it allows you to not always use your special ability, but you'll still have it. I just want more of it, and I'm hoping with X-Men we'll get that.
Yeah, to comment off that, in the original set there was a minimum of 3 special abilities for each character, and they are upping that to 4 in the X-Men sets. So we see a lot more special abilities. But yeah, I totally agree. The special abilities are really fun. When I first heard about this, I was a little honestly disappointed when I heard that. I'm like, only 3 special abilities? You're superheroes. You have superpowers. That's the whole point, right? But when I'm playing this, it actually doesn't feel that way, and especially when you pull the wilds out, right? Because you see, like Colin said, you get to the specials a lot sooner, and it's not just 3 of them in a lot of heroes. Like, for example, we played Black Cat yesterday on the stream, and she has, I think, 5 or 6 specials in her deck.
Nice.
And Groot is literally all specials. Every single one of his cards has a special effect on it, right?
Yeah.
And so yes, the minimum is 3, but it does vary quite a bit in there. And the other thing to point out about the heroes specifically is some of them, or most of them, are just like one-time effects where I lay it down. Other ones are like until the villain goes and it'll do something. Some of them are persistent. Like Adam Warlock has a card that makes him invincible as long as it's face up on the board. If you draw that first, play it, guess what? You're invincible for the rest of the game, which is really cool.
Wait,
right?
The rest of the game? Did I miss that?
No, he can be invincible for the whole game. If you play that as your first card, you can do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I
don't know how much I believe Steve. We know how he does with his rules, so
well,
it's probably wrong.
Can turn off his invincibility though,
Okay.
so it's got some caveats, of course, but yeah, the heroes are very, very different, which I was really surprised.
Another thing about the special abilities too is they're not auto plays, which is kind of cool too. So even having them in your hand and knowing you have the special powers is cool, but they're not auto plays. They're not like, oh my gosh, I've got the card. Bam, it hits the table. I mean, a lot of the times they are almost not necessarily situational, but you're finding that moment. You're getting your character that moment to do their special move, almost like a comic or movie type experience. Anyway, it's like, when do we get to Iron Man where he's going to do his unibeam? Like he's got to be fighting a little bit and get the guy in the perfect position, then unibeam roar. I mean, it's got to roar that way. Yes, I read too many comics and unibeam. So I don't know that yes. So yes, I like that. The core box I think was not necessarily lacking, but I think it was, again, that small design space of what you're gonna do. If I remember, Captain America has 3 cards. Aren't they all the same? Aren't they? They give a wild to somebody.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're alone. You're just like, but as you say, like all the extra stuff that we have now gives you more of these special abilities that are pretty awesome, and every character does feel mostly different. I mean, of course, I feel just like in movies and comics, they all start out the same. You're not going to instantly, unless you're Adam Warlock and become invincible for the whole game, you don't instantly play your main card. You're usually setting yourself up for it. You're usually moving and fighting first and everything. So I think it's really cool how those handle.
Yeah, and a part of that too is, thinking about who's following you. Right. So maybe you don't want to play that card, and how does that combo, like we were talking about earlier, work together?
And some of those special abilities do have other effects because in this game, we haven't talked about this, but the symbols you get on your turn, the next person goes will get those same symbols. And it's interesting because some of the more powerful special abilities don't have any symbols underneath them. So yes, you get a really powerful effect, but guess what? The next person goes gets less actions.
Them over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I can't move because you didn't put a move on the board. You played the big gun that had 2 hits.
Right.
Well, my favorite is Black Panther. He's got all these symbols. And so Connor and I, he's playing Black Panther during our campaign. And he's got all these symbols on it, but the symbols are on the top, so he only gets them, and then he only gives one symbol. And so Connor would be like, "Oh, here, I'm gonna play this thing." You do all these cool things. I'm like, "Well, you just gave me just one move, Connor. That's all you gave me. Now I can do nothing, even though you did all these cool things." Anyways, it's just they did that really well though, and I think that means that once again you feel like you're special, but then it's not an autoplay. I love that. I hadn't even thought about that, Bairnt. So that's a good point.
We have a comment here from TL. It's a good comment here. He says, when games go to the last card, you're pretty much guaranteed to see almost all of the special abilities. And he also says, a double punch feels like a special ability when nailing the villain, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
Getting that last hit in there feels really
last
good.
Kapow.
Kapow, right?
That is the name of this pod. Kapow, okay?
The podcast called Kapow.
I love it.
But yeah, I agree. We talked about the heroes, but I do want to give a shout out. I specifically leave those as character differentiation because as different the heroes are, I think the villains are even more different.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah, we didn't even mention them.
I don't even know why I talked only about the heroes. Sorry about that.
Gosh, Colin.
First thing to come to my mind, because the villains are even better. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. Now there's a couple of them that feel a little similar, but honestly, they all set the stage for the game. And in my mind, I see the villains as the scenario you're playing against, right? Because they all generally have a different win condition, and they all function very differently. Like we played Kang, who will teleport or disappear out of time and come back in the game at a different time, right? He's time traveling in the game, and so you have to approach him very differently. You have to hit him really hard when he's available, but when he's gone, then you have to manage the board. But the board can get pretty crazy at times. And in MODOK, he's canceling all your special cards as you lay them out. We have Dormammu, who you can literally not defeat. You just have to last to the end of the game. You have to play him very different than the other ones. And I just love all that variation they have in the villains.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Kapow. I mean,
Kapow.
That's a kapow.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let's move on. We've got one more comment to go through, and this is the big one. Saying the big one for last, and that is cooperation. Bairnt, do you want to start this one off?
In this game, you cooperate a lot. You play. No, I'm kidding.
Wait, this is a co-op game? Really?
It's a co-op game? Really?
But that's not always the case if you play with Asgard. I'm just saying.
It was semi-co-op. He'd want to move, and I just play a punch and be like, "Ha, take that." I think Steve's already kind of brought it up a little bit, but as you're playing your cards, the person that's going next is actually going to be able to take advantage of what's on the bottom of your card. So there's a lot of talking, a lot of cooperating that happens in this game. When I'm playing with my son, of course, right now we're playing with cards up so that we understand exactly what everybody has, and hey, let me show you how this works. This can go with this person really well, like, because I need to do this. But I mean, even by the end of the games, they've got this all figured out. So that is the main big thing in this game. It's like making sure you're helping your next person be able to do something. If you're standing in a location and there's nothing to do with the location, don't play Howard the Duck's big gun, because then you're going to get nothing else for the other guy. There's no symbols on the bottom of that card. Sure, but the other guy gets to do something. So I think it's a really cool mechanic, because it really makes you think of again, do I play my special card or do we hold it? It's never just, like I said, an autoplay. You have to know what the other person needs to do. Look, this villain I'm standing in the villain square. I need to move to get out of here, because if he draws the 0 card, I'm going to get powed, and that's going to be bad news city. So we need to get out of there. So then your friend can be like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. I got to move in a hit. I can do that. But of course, like Colin said, sometimes you draw dead cards. You're like, very rarely, but especially when you take damage, because then you get less cards in your hand. You can pull 2 cards and be like, I got 2 punches. That's it. Have fun. Bonk. Can you play your punch? And then you just sit there and wave at the person playing with you, and they basically face palm the board, and that right down. So, and that's kind of, I mean, it's just how it works. And I think that's it. I mean, I've never had a bad game. I've never had an unfun experience. So, and I think that has to do with the fact that you're talking a lot with the people. You're really expressing what we need to do. You're figuring out what missions, what part of the game you're supposed to be working on together to be able to, I mean, your object is to win. So, yeah, cooperate, man.
Yeah, there's no, this is my little area. Yeah, right. Where's your shirt, Steve?
Yeah. One of these things is not.
But what I think of this game as is, you know how there's some co-op games where You can go do your little thing.
Mhm.
You can go do your little thing. And as we're doing all the things, we go, oh, wait, okay, let's do something together. Okay, and then we'll keep going back off on our own thing. That's not how this game works, because everything that I do is going to affect what you do. And
Yep.
so that's some of the best cooperation that you're going to see in a game, because you're always talking. You're always gonna be like, okay, where do you need to go? Do you need a move? Do you need a punch? What do you need? Okay, you really need a move. Well, I've got a move and a punch. I can use that. I can utilize the punch. The biggest thing you want to do in this game is use every symbol as much as possible.
Mhm.
You cannot waste ones if you're playing on heroic mode. If you're not playing Steve mode, you might be okay. But playing Steve mode, you need to use every symbol, because that's how he set it up, right? So that's what's so fun. You look at that hand and immediately everyone's talking. Everyone's talking to the table. Oh yeah, I got to move over here so you can do this thing over there. And that's what's really cool. And a lot of other co-op games, I'm thinking of Pandemic. When you're doing Pandemic, it's like, okay, great, you need to do this stuff, but I can't do anything to help you. So I'm just going to go and clear some cubes, right? And okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to draw 2 cards. Now you do your thing. Here, well, I'm going to play this card so that you can use that symbol so you can save yourself and defeat the villain and take out that threat, then get the end of turn effect by the location, blah, blah, blah. So it's really one of the better games that gives cooperation, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't do any of this game without affecting someone else. Basically, what comes down to it, right? And it's really rare to find that, because, like you said, Colin, most co-op games you have a choice. Like, I'm going to focus on my thing.
You can silo yourself.
You can silo yourself, right? Yeah.
Like you're saying in Pandemic, you can say, okay, I'm going to take the Western Hemisphere, and then whatever the case may be, but not in this case.
No, very true. And it gets to the point where we've had games where this card does nothing for me, but it does something amazing for you. So I can play this, and it's almost like you playing that card. I'm playing the card for you, basically. How it feels for me when I'm playing this game sometimes. And the cooperation is just on the high end for this one. It's going to be hard to find something with more cooperation, especially for something this light, which is really surprising. But
yeah, I mean, it's not really.
The last.
It's not. I guess light is the right word in that case, because it's cooperation, but it's not crazy melt your brain thinking about that level of cooperation.
We're not talking about like Spirit Island, melt your brain, how am I cooperating with you, right? Type stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
So fantastic game, but very, very different. So
a little more going on. We'll just put it that way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. That is the whole list. We got through everything. I think right now we can go over and just do quick final thoughts from everyone. Bairnt, do you want to start us off with your final thoughts on this game?
It's great. I'm backing X-Men. I mean, that's really the deal, man. I mean, I enjoy it. I've had a lot of fun with I've really only played this with my kids, and I played with Colin. So, I mean, Colin and I have played together too, and I had a blast playing with him. I had a blast playing with my kids.
I'm just like a kid, so I get it.
Really, me too, man. I'm a 45-year-old, 6-year-old. What? So, I mean,
it's the whole spectrum.
And it's going to... That's right. I'm everywhere. I think it's going to stay in my collection because it is a fun little game, and it's a fun game to get to the table and play. I enjoy it. I don't know. We've talked a lot about a lot of different things. There's not really much more I can really say about it that is bad or good. There's less bad than good in here. And I'm really excited to see where X-Men goes. I think it's going to be a really cool experience. Again, like we talked about earlier, being able to play with Magneto and Professor X. I mean, come on, they're best friends technically. I mean, they just have a little bit difference in how the world works. So it's gonna be cool to see how that works. I actually really wish they would have had all the villains have a chance to be heroes, because in that world, there's not too many that were villains that weren't also could be considered heroes at times. I mean, sure, there's some big bads that are never going to be, but I mean, even people like, Magneto's whole group worked with the X-Men at one point. I mean, they all worked together at times to try to take down like Apocalypse and things like that. So, I mean, it'd be a lot cooler to see a lot of them come out like that, but it's really cool to bring in some of them together. Anyway, that's my little thing. I'm done. I like it. I think it's great. Yay!
Yay! Yeah, I'm on board with it. I really like the game. It's it's easy to get to the table. Doesn't melt my brain, but it's still a good challenge, and we can crank up the challenge level as well if our son's not playing with us, and the variety is ever growing. So, thumbs up.
I'll jump in next, I guess, real quick. My final thoughts, and I'm gonna tie in something that I saw Eric Lang tweet about recently about this game, because he's very proud of the team. And the game's done really well, and I think it deserves so. But he used a term that I wasn't prepared for. He used the term as a gateway lifestyle game. Is how he described this game. And the more and more I thought about that, I feel like that is a fairly apt description. So Gateway obviously is like, this is a very easy game to get to the table. Anyone can come down and play it. It's got that nice low bar of entry, right? Lifestyle is not a term I normally see associated with Gateway though, because like once you play a Gateway game, you play a few times, you keep in collection for people coming over, but you don't always come back to it. There's not a whole lot to explore. But this one, a lifestyle game, is something that generally has a lot of support. It evolves over time. It flexes the design space, for example. And this gets back to a comment that Colin made, which I think is hurting the game. The game is very light, and I think for $30 for the core set, it's definitely worth the price. In fact, the expansions for $30 are worth the price. The problem is, do you want to dump $200 to get everything for a light game? And that bar of entry is really, really high, because it's much harder to dump $200 at one lump sum than $30 every like month or 2 months, right, out. And if they were to not do a Kickstarter campaign, because let's be real here, CMOD doesn't have to do this as a Kickstarter. They have the funds to produce this. If they would actually produce this as an actual lifestyle game, I think it would do better. I think that is one barrier of entry to this game that would improve it. I don't know if the lifestyle label is going to go very far, because, like we said, this is a lighter game. It's not going to have the depth as other lifestyle games like Lord of the Rings Living Card Game. That game has just an insane amount of depth. This game won't ever come close to that. But does it have that same feeling for growth, expansion, and messing with the design space? Yeah, I feel like it is. And I think that part of it is what really I latched onto. Like being able to, I love exploring games. I love saying like, oh, this scenario, I can combine this character and this character to try to take it out. And it plays 30 minutes really, really fast. And we've been playing it, I think, every day. I think I missed one day. In the past 2 weeks, I haven't played this game.
Mostly because of our son.
Mostly because of son. He loves asking the game. I'm like, sure, we'll play 30 minutes, no big deal. And Elijah came over. We played this one like 4 times in a row, just exploring different things. Even with gamers, it's been hitting the table a lot. And for me, that's a win. Any game that can hit the table a lot and people are having fun leaving the table, it's worth it.
Cool.
What do you got, Colin?
Nothing else to add. I mean, there's really nothing else to add. I would say it for me. I will say it that even during our top 100 list, we talked about United, and I was talking about selling all of that expansion stuff because I hadn't opened it. It was sitting in my box in my office right over there on the ground, wasn't open, and then Steve brought up and he was like, hey, this is awesome, you really should play it. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll pull it out. And now that I'm pulled it out, there's no way I'm selling it. I'm painting it all. I want it all painted. So that's, I mean, to me, I think that's saying something about the game, that the amount that the Kickstarter and the additional packs provided to the game provided enough for me to be excited about it, to want to back X-Men, and to want to keep the game. So I think that's awesome. And I just almost wish I hadn't played just the core set. But it is what it is. I understand why they did that. And for someone that isn't as big of a gamer, it's actually been a great way of doing it. Just for me personally, it wasn't. It would have been better to have everything at the get-go. But that's just where I am in my gaming journey. So.
Wow.
Well, excellent. I think that's going to wrap up our discussion here. Oh yeah, even Howard recommended. He remembers you saying that, Colin.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, and I'll just make another comment. Like, I've been talking to people and other servers on Discord. I'm really big on meeting with people on Discord, and I've been seeing a pattern that a lot of people, when they approach this game, and I was the same way for sure. Saw this as very light and kind of dismissed it. And honestly, I don't know if I would have backed it the first time if it wasn't like going to be the perfect game for our son.
Yeah, the whole reason you backed this game was like, this is the perfect way to get Caleb into my board game hobby, right, and mold him into this little gaming friend.
Maybe.
So
Small Steve.
Yes, mini Steve. And so that was your whole intention. But, luckily, like and brilliantly, like they've done it, is they've expanded it for adults more so.
Right. And I think that's the one thing that, as I'm talking to other people, it's starting to become more realized. Not saying this is the greatest game ever, but the fact that like the initial presentation of the game and what people are realizing what it is isn't necessarily the same, right? That opinion or thoughts about the game are starting to evolve. Other people I'm talking about, and I'm excited to see where it takes it. So, I mean, is this a game we'll keep playing? I think for us, definitely, especially with our son, who just asks to play this game all the time. But I'm a sucker for Marvel, so I love seeing all the new heroes and the new combinations coming out. So I'm very excited for the future of this one.
Yeah.
There is one thing that's kind of down, and that about the miniatures, that when the second wave hit, you got them all at one time, and it's hard to paint them all at one time. I mean, ideally, I mean, I wish they could do it like Fantasy Flight could do, where they'd bring out like, oh, hey, here's a core box, here's one expansion, here's another expansion, like a month down the line, and you don't feel overwhelmed. One of the hardest things when it comes to painting miniatures is not getting all of them at once, because you get so overwhelmed by all these miniatures at one time that it's sometimes the barrier to get them painted. Yeah. I know that is a huge issue to probably 4% of the people right now.
I'm 4%. I get it.
One of them right
I get
there.
it.
I got one of them. I got one.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's cool that I'm excited to paint them, and I'm excited to get these to the table. And the cool thing is, at least when I'm playing with my son, he can decide, hey, I want to play this guy. Okay, I know which one I'm painting next, like kind of thing, as opposed to like, oh my gosh, which one do I paint next? There's so many of them. And they're also iconic too, so you really need to make sure you get them right. Or
the colors right. That is the hardest part. Getting those colors right. Yeah.
And I don't know, I got a few colors, so I'm okay. But
well, I mean, are you going to paint to match the illustration on their cards, or are you painting it to more, I guess, another comic version of what they might be? Like, because I think the cards are they're very specific.
Yeah.
Yes. But, and when it comes to painting, if there is a card to go by, I usually always paint that. I always make it look like what it does on the card. Unless there's something about the miniature that's making me do something different. With Sword and Sorcery, I decided to go down the evil path, so I actually painted them more with an evil tone than I would with the good tone, which is what was on their cards. Well, I guess you flipped them over, they're the evil tone. So I guess
they had it on both sides.
No, I guess never mind. I know what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's Marvel United, and I totally ended on painting.
That's okay. That's a good thing to end on, because that is a big thing about it. Those minis are fantastic, and they look wonderful painted. I mean, absolutely wonderful. So, especially when they're painted well by someone like Bairnt, you know. But yes. So I don't blame you. That is a definite. I mean, you could even just get this game just to paint the minis, because you know the minis are totally, they're high quality. They look great, and if you really enjoy painting and want to match that to the cards or match it to something, the comics themselves, you can do that, and that's really cool.
There's so many alternate suits out there, man. You can paint one.
I will say a quick tip. I'm not going to say exactly what it is for spoilers, but there is a cheat way you can quickly paint Vision based upon what happened in WandaVision.
Yes.
I'll leave it at that.
Yes, he does have a suit that makes it very easy.
Exactly. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. So.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But anyway, I think it's going to wrap up our review. So thanks so much for watching. If you happen to watch on YouTube Live with us, and thanks thanks Bairnt and Colin for joining, and Kim.
Yeah, it was a good time.
It was a blast. Thank you.
It was awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thanks everyone, and we'll see you at the next stop.
Bye.
Bye.